Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Health meeting of July 15th, 2024. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet. If anyone else is recording this meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to the meeting while in progress may do so by calling 508-945-4410. And the conference ID is 938-06359#, or they may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast simulcast on Chatham TV, Channel 8 and 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of the meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And I'll turn the meeting over to our chairman, Dr. Noble Hanson.
Thank you. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. So first, let's go ahead and establish a quorum. When I call your name, please say present. Carol Boyce.
Present.
John Beckley.
Present.
Ron Broman.
Here.
Dick Edwards.
Present.
Noble Hanson, present. Okay, we have three items on the agenda. The first is a request for extension from Board of Health approved variance hearing for Marvin Schlossman, Melina Atkinson Schlossman, 233 Barcliff Avenue. Jim Collins representing? Do we have?
Yes, this is Jim Collins representing the buyers, the Schlossmans.
Okay, can you just present the request for us?
So the request is to take a variance that was approved apparently last September 18th, 2023 for the current owners of 233 Barcliff Ave, the O'Donohues. And they had apparently a set of stipulations and conditions in this variance approval to allow them to go from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, add basically a 3rd bedroom to 233 Barcliff under the conditions that were outlined in that approval letter of September 18th, last September. So they are in the process of selling their house to my clients, the Schlossmans, that is scheduled to close on August 8th this year. And the Schlossmans have requested an extension on this variance for 1 year so that they can follow through on the original plans to add a 3rd bedroom to 233 Barcliff.
Okay, all right. So it's a renewal of a previously granted variance, adding a 3rd bedroom to a 2-bedroom on a 10,957 square foot lot with the use of a microfast, of a IA technology. So from the board, questions or?
So there's been no changes in what was originally
There have been
approved?
no changes to the property. Right.
Okay.
If they do make any changes to the site plan proposed or the floor plans, they will have to
Come
be
back.
sent to me for approval. Or if you want, they can come back to you, but usually whenever there's any revisions, they're sent to me for approval.
Okay.
And then if you have a question that has to come
Right.
before us or something, it
Yes.
would come back. Okay.
So I'm sorry, this was approved in September of last year for the owners at that time to do this addition,
It's,
and now it's going to be sold to a different owner?
yes.
And the different owner wants to use these same plans to add a 3rd bedroom to the house?
That's not clear, but right now, that's what we're approving is the same plans.
So they would have to use...
We're giving them a year extension of the variance that we granted, so.
Right, so they have to use the original plans or come back to this board with altered plans.
Right. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to come back to you. It's not uncommon for people to change their site plan slightly or come up with a different house design or make.
Right, but we often have trouble deciding how many bedrooms there are, and the architect says 3, and we see 5. So I think it would be good for this board to see any changes.
We can certainly add that as a condition, that any changes to come back to the board. I do have in item, let's see, number 9, no alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or engineer's site plan will be allowed without further review. It says Board of Health or its agent, but I can take out its agent and say that it has to come back to the Board of Health for review.
I would like to see that, yes.
All right.
Is-
And then, okay, other input from the public
I see none.
already, and then, you want to read the conditions before or after we take a motion?
I can read, so Jim, and just so you remember, the conditions are floor plans must be submitted of the proposed dwelling showing the 3rd bedroom. Apparently, I don't know if we didn't get the floor plans. I'll have to recheck through the file. The applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and record this at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the Town of Chatham, through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water Commissioners, directs the connection of this property to the sewer when it becomes available. This covenant and the 3-bedroom deed restriction shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds and copy submitted to the Board of Health. Through its life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. That such agreement shall be at least 1 year and may be with any mass certified operator of the appropriate grade that's received training by the company. Effluent from the system shall be monitored at least twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably May and October, and shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units for general use, revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, lab tests of the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standards shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab, and water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and an evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or their agent for review and possible modification of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or engineered site plan will be allowed without further review by the Board of Health. This variance is granted for an extension of 1 year. It shall be valid for 1 additional year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1-year period, or the variance shall expire.
John?
Question, just so I continue to understand this. If this property owner spends the money to install a secondary system, and then 3 years later, the public sewer is completed in front of their house, they do not have to connect to the sewer?
They have 10 years.
That's my question.
Yeah.
So they can extend that if they wanted to, up to 10 years?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't think we're going to have a sewer on Barcliff
Okay,
um,
all right,
that quickly, so
all right.
I don't see
Thank
that
you.
as being an issue.
Okay, other questions or comments? And can I get a motion to approve the variance extension for 233 Barcliff Avenue?
So move.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I think we can probably take a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, hearing none, that variance is granted. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the second is a continued variance hearing and approval of IA Technology, 60 Robbins Way, East Southeast LLC. This was on the agenda at our last meeting and then continued over to this meeting. But Thad Eldridge is here to present for the variance.
Good afternoon. For the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast, here representing the Sugimotos. Before the last hearing, we were advised that our floor plans were insufficient. They were a little bit busy and prepared by the landscape architect. So we took the time, we asked for continuance so we could produce some more legible floor plans. Hopefully these meet your approval. We have a 45,000 square foot upland area on this property. There is currently a 4-bedroom house here where there was a 3-bedroom approved with a 3-bedroom septic system. There was a storage room that had been converted over, and there's an office space on the first floor they'd like to put a door on. So a brand-new septic system will go in with a microfast unit. We're selecting the microfast because it's so close to the driveway. We want the H20 loading so that a vehicle can drive over it. Otherwise, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So just to clarify, the fifth bedroom is actually the office. It's an existing room, and they're going to be putting in a doorway, a regular doorway. So it's a cased opening now, and it will have a door, and that will make it the legal fifth bedroom.
Okay?
And I can say I'm unsure why I was under the impression this was a rental. It is not. It's the Sugimoto's family.
Any other questions from the board?
Well, on the second floor plan, there's a room, it says attic bedroom 4, that does not appear to be a, what does that mean, attic bedroom 4?
It was
The
originally-
hallway has a door into that space?
It does, it does. It was originally designed to be a storage room, and when the builders were building it, they constructed a bath and closet and made it into a 4th bedroom.
So the attic doesn't, there's no reason for that word attic to be there.
It was
It's
just,
really
that
a
was a
bedroom.
carryover because the original plans were for that to be an attic space. And it unfortunately was created as a 4th bedroom. The property's been used so minimally. The Sugimotos do live in Japan, but they do come here every summer. And so, I mean, the septic has worked because of the lack of use. So now we're legitimizing it.
And
putting in a
that
5-bedroom
space
system.
that says open, that's, when you come in the entryway, you see all the way up to the.
Yeah, that's open to below.
Other questions or comments from the board?
This system is squeezed in between wetland areas, so this is gonna be a good system. It's the best they can do, and with the IA, we'll get really good treatment there. They're really using the only area on the lot where they can put the system in.
Okay, so it's 45,000 square foot lot, 4 bedrooms by right. They're going to add a 5th bedroom with IA technology. And we have the plan. So Judy, you want to read the conditions and then we can get a motion?
Hold on. So our standard conditions, the applicant should restrict the property to 5 bedrooms, record this at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water and Sewer Commissions directs the connection of this to the municipal sewer. The covenant and deed restriction shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds and a copy submitted to the Board of Health. Through its life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. The O&M agreements shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any mass certified operator of the appropriate grade. Effluent from system shall be monitored at least twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units for general use, revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, a lab test of the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standard of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab, and water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab test follow-up tests shall be fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and an evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or their agent for review and possible modifications of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration of the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineer's site plan will be allowed without further review by the Board of Health or its agent. This variance is granted pursuant to the State Environmental Code Title V and the Town of Chatham Subsurface Sewage Regulations, is valid for 1 year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1 year period, or the variance shall expire.
Okay, any input from the audience or online?
See none.
Okay, and then can I get a motion to approve the variance for 60 Robbins Way?
I move we approve the variance. Second?
Second? Can I get a second from
I did second.
Ron?
Ron? Okay. I think we can take a voice vote on this, so all in favor for the extension 60 Robbins Way variance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, hearing none, that variance is granted.
Thank you much.
You're all set. All right, so now we have a variance hearing and approval of IA Technology for Eric Whiteley, 287 Cedar Street, Clark Engineering. Dave Clark is here. Can you
Good
present the
afternoon.
variance for us?
David Clark from Clark Engineering, and Eric Whiteley's in the audience, as well as Attorney Litchfield. So if you've been out to the site, you see that the house is underway. We started permitting this project 7 years ago, 6 years ago, in anticipation of connecting the municipal sewer, because of 6 years of delays of getting the sewer down Cedar Street. Conservation permit is about to run out next year, so we had to get started on the house. It was permitted as a 2-bedroom house, but it doesn't appear that the sewer is going to be on the immediate future for Cedar Street, so before the property is landscaped, we're coming before you to permit a 3-bedroom system on the property. As you know, 3-bedroom system with treatment outperforms a 2-bedroom system without. Knowing that you now have a regulation that restricts such increases to properties that agree, or owners that agree to a restriction on seasonal rentals, and we agree to do that as part of the covenant that will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds, with the understanding that pursuant to your regulations, that all properties that are connected to the sewer are exempt from your nitrogen loading regulations. So we expect to either come before you when the property is connected to the sewer to release the covenant, or have it as part of the covenant that it automatically sunsets upon connection of the sewer.
All right, Judy, can you explain this to us? I didn't quite understand.
So in our Title V, this is, what size
Oh,
lot?
it's a 14,000 square foot
14,000
upland.
square foot lot.
Two bedrooms by right, and a 3rd bedroom using IA technology.
Yes.
And then, so then you'd have a 3-bedroom home that would be permanent, but if the sewer comes, what's the situation you're talking about?
That's
So I can explain it, that we can add a condition that this not be used as a short-term rental. That was part of our nitrogen loading changes the last time. So he's saying that if the board, if it does become connected to the sewer, we could release that requirement, so if somebody
If I
wanted.
could, Mr. Chairman, to simplify life a little bit, as David, Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Mr. Whiteley with David, as David said, this project has been on hold as a result of the town's difficulty in extending town sewer beyond Capri Lane, where it now ends. It was supposed to be connected to town sewer 5 or 6 or 8 years ago. Mr. Whiteley has been waiting patiently. The patience, as David said, necessarily has to come to an end. We understand, obviously, the need for IA technology, and it's really sort of a question of Judy's time going forward. The standard deed restriction that you impose says that the restriction shall be in place until released or modified by the Board of Health or its successor on behalf of the town of Chatham. Because we know that sewer is, if not quite imminent, is still in the works for Cedar Street, we would simply propose that the language in the restrictions say that it shall stay in effect until released or modified by the Board of Health or its successor on behalf of the town of Chatham, or until the premises are connected to the municipal sewer system. That simply alleviates Judy of signing a release. Occasionally, she's had to do that. She and I went through this a couple of months ago on a property where there was a mistake in the covenant and had to be fixed, and we had to run around, get a release, and impose a new covenant. So we're simply suggesting to you that might be more efficient for your time and your purposes to have that language.
So is this about the short-term rental restriction?
Yes.
And the IA itself, because obviously there's no need for an IA system when it's connected to town sewer.
But this proposal suggests that the only reason for the short-term rental restriction is the sewage, not overcrowding, not any of the other problems. And this would imply that as soon as a sewer system comes down the street, houses can have as many bedrooms as they want. And that's just not, I wouldn't agree to that. And I think at a minimal, we would need to have this come back to the board for a decision about whether the restriction, the rental restriction, should be eliminated when a sewer connection is made.
Yeah, we're not,
Because nowhere, I mean, there were multiple reasons for that restriction, one of which was the nitrogen loading. But we already know that the IA technology is better than a standard, and yet we agreed to put in that short-term rental restriction.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, your regulations, your nitrogen loading regulations have a purpose. Moreover, they state on their face that they apply to properties with on-site septic systems. Thus, they don't apply to properties that are connected to the municipal sewer system.
and we are not suggesting that, that the release of the covenant is going to allow them to have unlimited number of bedrooms, because the Water and Sewer Department regulations already mimic your regulations as far as number of bedrooms on a piece of property. So once we get the third bedroom, we can't go to the Water and Sewer Department and get a fourth. That's written into the Water and Sewer
Right,
Department
that's my
regulations.
understanding. Once you've used that extra bedroom with IA, you
Right.
That's
cannot
it.
get another one.
That's it.
That's it, period.
And the short-term rental applies to the IA technology, increase one bedroom, but it doesn't apply to, if it's a sewer, if it's hooked up to the sewer, that, we don't have that restriction, correct?
Well,
Right.
we were planning to discuss that with the sewer commission, about whether, if there's a two-bedroom house on a sewer and they want to add a third bedroom, if it would be appropriate to have a short-term rental restriction.
But
the
that's,
town is-
we haven't had that discussion.
We
and that
haven't
would
had
be-
that discussion.
And that would be
That's a-
totally
to
up
me,
to
that's
the
a
Water and
future
Sewer Commissioners.
Possibility, but I don't know that that would apply to what we have right here, in my own mind.
Well, I would suggest the better part of valor is to just say, come back to the committee when the sewer gets connected, and then we can have further discussion about it.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, that is subjecting Mr. Whiteley to something to which no one else is being subjected. Very frankly, this is akin to something that occurred 7, 8 months ago in terms of changing the rules in the middle of the game, which I find to be inappropriate. I have no problem with a nitrogen loading regulation designed to reduce nitrogen. I would have individually no particular problem with the Board of Health promulgating a proposed regulation on short-term rentals, having the public have an opportunity to hear that, discuss it, and if within your purview and you decide to do so, to adopt it. But this is an entirely different issue. We are simply proposing that this house have a third bedroom with IA technology and other restrictions which the board may but need not impose, and that when this property is no longer served by an on-site sewage disposal system, that it be like other properties and have not more than 3 bedrooms in accordance with water and sewer regulations.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. A question or comment, or?
Well, if they built a 2-bedroom house on the lot, there wouldn't be a rental restriction,
Correct,
right?
correct. Well, they
So-
wouldn't be here at all.
Right, you wouldn't be here at all. So you're asking for a 3rd bedroom, but you don't want to,
No, until
Well,
such
the
time as the property is
regulations we
connected
have
to
in
town
place.
sewer, we accept it.
Right. But, yeah, what they're saying is that they won't use it as a rental while it's on a septic system, but once it gets connected, that should be left off. That part of the deed restriction should be released.
but I thought when we came up with that regulation, like Dick said, it wasn't just because of the septic. It was looking at everything and the lot size.
Right, it was, but we weren't looking forward to it being connected to sewer, because then it becomes not our issue anymore. It's the sewer department.
This is exactly the opposite of the Barcliff Avenue property that you considered earlier this afternoon, where there are not going to be sewers in our lifetimes, except for Diane, who is so much younger than the rest of us. But this property is going to be sewered in the very near future, and Mr. Whiteley has been kept dangling for 6 or 8 years because of that. So we simply want to be treated as if the town had done what it said it was going to do, without being hung up with a new and different issue as, under the guise of nitrogen loading, creating a title problem down the road.
Yeah, it seems to me that correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, but our regulation applied to an extra bedroom with IA technology, but we didn't address the extra bedroom from a sewer hookup in terms of.
No, because we can't.
Yeah, so I think that, to me, we would follow what we've done. And if something in the future changes, so be it, but to me, it seems if they convert to a sewer hookup, they would retain the 3 bedrooms, they wouldn't get an extra, but there wouldn't be an extra short-term rental thing once it's hooked up to sewer. That seems logical to me, I think. But
Because if they were
comments-
hooked up to sewer, they would get the 3rd bedroom anyways,
Yes.
and they wouldn't have to have this restriction. That's, I think, what,
And why have they been tied up for 7 years?
they're.
Waiting for the
believe-
sewer to come down.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe they've
there's a
been
low
having,
point at the bottom of Capri Lane,
they're trying to get a pump station.
and they're trying to
built.
find a location for a pump station. Mr. Whiteley and Mr. Clark had correspondence with Dr. Duncanson 6 or 8 years ago saying it was imminent, but they had a problem.
And you wanted to avoid
Yeah.
the expensive IA technology because the sewer was
We
not.
preferred to,
Right,
and
so,
there we have it. So now it, to me anyway, and I think equitably, it would be curious to impose a short-term rental in perpetuity, a short-term rental restriction on this property. Mr. Whiteley doesn't have any plans to make it a short-term rental, and obviously, in the short term, it can't be, because we're going to be in an IA system.
John, did you have a question? Comment?
I'm not clear about the wording we used in our amended regulations when we placed the additional requirement
I can pull it up.
on the short-term rental. I mean, we have to look at what the wording is there and then make a reasoned decision of whether that applies here or not.
My recollection is it just referred to IA.
The discussion that we had realized that an IA system on that lot with 3 bedrooms would make no more nitrogen than a standard a system with 2 bedrooms. And so, based on that, it doesn't make any sense to say that if the only reason we're restricting short-term rentals is nitrogen loading, that whole regulation makes no sense. But what we said was the Board of Health was interested in more than just nitrogen loading. We were interested in congestion, traffic, and having bigger houses on smaller lots. I mean, a 10,000 square foot lot's only allowed 1 bedroom. You know, 1 bedroom per 10,000. I said, well, you can have 2 bedrooms. Every house can have 2 bedrooms. And now we say, well, every house can have 3 bedrooms if they put IA technology. And we were concerned about the very rapid increase in short-term rentals in Chatham and how we could start to restrict this increase in short-term rentals. And it wasn't just about nitrogen. Because if it was just about nitrogen, then that rule makes absolutely no sense, because the IA makes less nitrogen than the standard with 2 bedrooms. So, you know, now we're being told the only thing that we can be concerned about is nitrogen loading. Board of Health has no other goals than to restrict nitrogen loading in town. And I don't think that's true. And I believe that's why we went ahead with this, even though we know that his IA technology makes less nitrogen than a Title V system with 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, well, my recollection was we were dealing just with IA technology and the extra bedroom. We weren't dealing with sewer system. That's a whole new
No, I'm
issue
talking
we
about
haven't really
the
dealt
short-term rental restriction.
with. Right, but we haven't extended it
The
to
wording in
sewer
the
hookups.
wording in the regulation is all such variances granted, meaning the extra bedroom, may require conditions as defined by the board, including a deed restricting the use of the property to owner occupied or for rental greater than 31 consecutive calendar days in length. No short-term rentals. So,
So does it state the extra bedroom for what reason? Didn't it limit it?
well, right, I can read the whole thing. For a residential application, the board may allow by variance 1 additional bedroom over the number allowed with the use of IA, in accordance with Title V, providing that said lot is not in a nitrogen-sensitive area as defined by Title V. Existing properties that already exceed the requirements will not be allowed an extra bedroom, notwithstanding that 2-bedroom properties on lots greater than 10,000 square feet may be allowed a 3rd bedroom upon review by the board. All such variances granted may require conditions as defined by the board, including a deed restricting the use of the property to owner occupied.
There's also another section of regulations that say that the regulations don't apply to properties on sewer.
Right, and it says that all vacant properties that may have a minimum of 2 bedrooms. So it's where we get this 14,000 square foot with 2 bedrooms.
And that's my point. I mean, your rationale may be valid, but what we did was we addressed the extra bedroom with IA technology. That's what we were talking about there. We didn't get into the extra bedroom from sewer. So to me, if they, in the future, hook up to the sewer, then they would fall back on the sewer.
I think we have extenuating circumstances here, and the fact that this has been dragged out. If they'd built this house 2-3 years ago and it had been connected to sewer, this would be a moot point. They could do whatever they want, but under the circumstances, they're trying to move forward with a three-bedroom house, put an IA system in, and in the meantime, restrict it to owner-occupied or long-term rental. But,
And then when they hook up to sewer, that restriction will be removed.
right,
That's the covenant that they're, yeah. So that, I agree with this, I think, as Judy describes it and as proposed, but there's someone else, I'm interested in what other, Ron.
If we make that agreement, could we do it so it's not a prejudice to us?
Say that again?
Make it so it's not a prejudice to us if someone else come along and say, oh, well, you let them do it, now you gotta let me do it.
it would be in the minutes, it's, you're looking at, each case is taken on its own merits.
Yeah, I don't
So,
thi- I
and
don't
it
think-
says may, it doesn't say must, so I think the board has some room to,
We need to be consistent.
Right.
this is true,
And
but I think you do
guess-
have to look at it, things on a case-by-case basis. I mean, we would be doing what it says in the regulation.
I mean,
The- The difference would be, we're saying that upon connection to sewer, that requirement would be released, which we could say for any property, really. I mean, everything changes once they connect to sewer. We don't have really any say in, within reason, what they do there. I mean, they can't add more than one extra bedroom, but it's not our final call.
If I could, Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me?
briefly.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your comments. I recognize you have other things. In response to prior comment, by no means am I suggesting that the Board of Health is concerned only with nitrogen loading regulations. I am saying, however, that this regulation under which we are here is a nitrogen loading regulation that does not apply to properties on municipal sewer.
Yeah.
I think it would be appropriate for the board to look further at the short-term rental issue, and I trust you will do so. But having the municipal delays, which were by no means his fault, cause even further problems for the applicant, particularly where every property is separate. And I don't know if there's another buildable lot south of Capri Lane on Cedar Street. I don't think that there is. This is not an issue where consistency, Mr. Beckley, is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I mean, I would say that if the sewer hookup rules change in the future, to me, this wouldn't prejudice what's done there one way or the other, but we don't have that in place right now. That's what I think. Carol, do you have an opinion about, or comment, or
No, I was
question?
just looking at the floor plan and the home office, why couldn't that be counted as a bedroom?
You're not on speaker.
Is the home office open to the entry below? Is that a railing?
It's a pass-through room, so it doesn't qualify as a bedroom.
Pass-through? What's-
Pass through the
You have to
wall.
go through it to get to either bedroom.
No, you don't.
Oh, I'm sorry, the home office.
The home office.
Sorry,
I think
office.
No, the loft, I was
It's
talking
open,
about the loft.
it's a partial wall.
Yeah,
It's open to
It's an
below.
open
Yeah,
railing.
there's a note on the plan that
Right.
the.
So what does this mean?
it's no
Optional
privacy.
access to office and eliminate east dormer. There's an arrow on there. So there may be another, the home office may be reconfigured under some future plan. There's an arrow that says optional access to office and,
Mr. Whiteley may be able to respond, but I think that Judy's reading of the variances you would grant, we hope you would grant, would also indicate that any floor plans would require further review, and he changed the floor plans. So this is going to be at the most a three-bedroom house as approved by the Board of Health.
Yeah, so currently that home office is open to the first floor, one wall.
Could Mr. Whiteley respond directly?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Whately. So that is correct, it is open, and the note that, that you're seeing there was put in you know, unfortunately, Mark Zebrat was working on these and he didn't finish everything. There was some thought that we would come in from that side where that one arrow is, but we adjusted the dormer so that you can walk in that way. So there's only one way in, so that's
So the
it's
office
an old
is
note.
really like a loft.
It is,
And you
yes.
can look right into the entrance.
Yes.
Okay, so, other questions or input from the board? Is there any input from the, out from the, on the web or
Someone's,
outside people, online? Any other public comment, I guess? Public comment. Okay, so,
All right, so I would like, I think we're kind of in a bind because this is a nitrogen loading regulation, and the whole thing about the short-term rental restriction is difficult to justify, given that the IA technology is less nitrogen than a standard technology with 2 bedrooms. So I think it's impossible, really, to hold them to this short-term rental restriction. I think what we should do, what I would propose is that we allow the motion that was suggested, that this short-term rental sundowns when the sewer is connected, and that the board start considering other mechanisms of addressing the short-term rental problem in Chatham, such as coming up with regulations that are not related to nitrogen loading.
and that would be a future.
And that would be
issue as far
a
as
future
applying to this thing right
discussion,
now.
because we're just getting ourselves into a bind. We have a regulation regarding short-term rentals that is really hard to justify, given the
Circumstances.
the way the IA systems function. So I think it would be best to deal with this today, allow that regulation to sundown when the sewer goes in, and then the board reconsider what we want to do about the short-term rental problem in Chatham.
Okay, do you want to put that into a motion for this 287 Cedar Street? So moved, and second? And no public comment?
No.
Okay, so I guess we can take a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, did you read the conditions?
I've read them 3 times. Do you want me to?
I don't know, I mean, on this one. We did that, okay?
So it's the standard conditions would be a 3-bedroom. It's the standard conditions would be a 3-bedroom deed restriction, and that we're going to add to that it can't be used as a short-term rental until such time it's connected to sewer, and at that time that restriction will be released. They shall sign a covenant that they agree to connect to sewer when it becomes available. They agree to an operation and a maintenance agreement for at least 1 year with any Mass certified operator. And the F1 shall be monitored at least twice a year for the first 2 years. And the performance standards for total nitrogen shall be 19 milligrams per liter, and that should be tested as well. 2 years of testing shall be done and for review and possible modification after 2 years to reduce that. The applicant agrees to 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas. They shall submit an engineered as-built plan with as-built elevations with written certification the system has been installed in accordance with the plan. No alteration of the floor plan of the dwelling will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent, and the variance is granted by the town Board of Health, the town subsurface sewage regulation and nitrogen loading regulations for 1 year. The permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1-year period, or the variance shall expire.
Okay, thank you. And then, so we voted,
You did.
we took our vote, so that variance for 287 Cedar Street is granted.
Thank
you. Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so,
Judy, can I ask
all right, so,
one question? That what she reads all the time, is there some way we could put it onto writing and then have them sign it, that's just heard it? I mean, you got to read
Each
that.
one's a little different, isn't it?
That was the
conditions?
same one. Those were the same.
Well, let me ask you
conditions, all
this.
three.
We have always read the conditions for each variance requested. Do you think that's necessary for us to do?
Or put it in writing and have them just sign it, they've just seen it, you know, to protect.
I think we add some things like, they have to come back to the Board of Health was in the conditions.
Yeah, some so Judy doesn't have to keep
Recommended
reading
on the
that.
first one, so,
Well, it should be part of your motion, that's why I read it.
Or we could
so.
say in the motion of name
it
it.
should be read before.
I think it
we
should be
vote.
read. I could think about it, see if there's a way we can,
Yeah, for thoroughness and legalese.
Yeah.
It's probably appropriate that we go through the process of
And I think
reading
we
it.
add things sometimes, so each one's a little different.
right, and sometimes we make a change or a condition we add in, and so.
All right. So we have old business, and I would just note that Judy included a complaint on short-term rental 527. It's on 99 Main Street, and it just shows this Karen
So what am I looking?
Shimwaza is doing her work, and things are coming along. And Judy, do you have an update on how many?
Can I just make a comment about that?
Yes.
So I went to Pretty Picky Properties website to see this property. So this property was granted a variance in 2017 and it was allowed to have a Title V septic system, and there was a deed restriction to 4 bedrooms. That deed restriction is on this property. So I go to the Pretty Picky website, and I look at the description of the property. So there's primary bedroom, there's guest bedroom 1, guest bedroom 2, guest bedroom 3, that's 4 bedrooms. There's flexible sleeping area with 2 bunk beds in it, and there's a pool house with a queen-size bed, a shower, and a toilet. So this house has 6 sleeping areas, at least 5 of them are bedrooms. So this is in complete violation of their deed restriction. And I want to know whether this pool house needs to be destroyed, needs to be,
I'll have to look through the building files and see how it was permitted, and,
I mean, it's clearly got more than 4 bedrooms in this house. And so they've
Again,
changed the
we-
Pretty Picky website, so it now says 4 bedrooms, sleeps 10. But in the property description, it lists sleeping for 14 beds, and at least 6 separate sleeping areas.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we deal with this, but it sounds like the building department needs to go and inspect that place, and that pool house may need to be torn down.
yeah, I'll have to
Well,
look
it
into
raises the
it.
question of, Ms. Karen, when she's dealing with the short-term rental registration or a complaint or a change, does she look at the advertisement, how it's advertised, as well as what's actually there?
That's the reason why she sent that letter, because she originally had it listed as a higher number of bedrooms, higher occupancy. So we contacted them. I'll have to follow up
But
with
does
her.
she go and look at the websites and find out what they're actually,
Yeah.
and
That's how
then
we-
if there's an
that's the
issue
only
like
reason
Dick
why we
raises,
knew it.
can't the inspector go out and actually look at
She
it?
can, yes.
Yeah.
She can do a walkthrough to make this so tidy that.
That's a good point, though, I
But
think.
this is more than
But I can't,
short-term rental.
yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
a violation of.
we're somewhat limited to, I can't tell people to take beds out of their dining room if they have them in there.
But if
You know
they've
what
got
I
a
mean?
pool house that's now a
Pool
bedroom.
house, I will look at, yes, I can look into all of that. If they have bunk beds in the basement, they're not legal sleeping areas, if I could let their insurance company knows, I would, but I
So they
don't,
changed the header to 4 bedrooms, sleeps 10, but they still list enough.
and they're
enough beds to
signing
sleep
they're
14
signing a
people.
legal agreement that they're restricting it to 10 people. Just because they have 16 beds doesn't mean they're gonna have 16 people in there. But,
So there's an inconsistency.
yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can do. I understand your concern, believe me, we struggle with this every day.
But the house has been modified, it appears, to have more than 4 bedrooms.
I'll have to look at,
And-
I'll have to
And
look
that pool
at it.
house with a shower, a toilet, and a sauna, and a queen-size bed is a bedroom.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I'll have to look at the file. So until I can't really answer you until I look at the
I'm
file.
sure this is one of hundreds and hundreds of
Believe me,
homes
we
in
spend a
Chatham
lot
that
of
have been
time on these,
modified.
a lot of time on not just the short-term rentals, but the real estate inspection reports as well.
So
Going,
what's the fix for this? I mean, if,
I'm not sure
Well,
at this
if the
point.
building department finds out that somebody has illegally added an additional bedroom in their house
Well, they
in
can.
violation of their deed restriction, what do?
Can they go out and
They
inspect?
send an order letter and they can require them to get a permit after the fact, which wouldn't be approved because we wouldn't approve it.
Right.
Does the building inspector go out after the fact and inspect in a situation like that?
They will, if
Responding to a complaint?
they
can't-
can, if the,
can't-
yeah.
But do they order illegal modifications of a home to be removed?
They will, yes. Not always, they can. I don't know, what will spur that action.
can't the town of Chatham, if they see a bedroom with, like, we've seen pictures of like bunk beds, like sleep, 3 sets of bunk bed, I mean, it's obvious that this is a premeditated attempt to do a workaround on the.
I mean, part of the whole short-term rental registration concept was to find these properties. We're keeping track of these properties so that when we revisit the regulation, we can say, okay, we had, 35 properties or 70 properties or whatever that are in violation of our regulations for one reason or another. So we
And are
can,
they all getting this, a letter like this?
if we catch them,
Is
Yeah.
this the only one you've sent?
I can't remember, Karen's been handling this.
It's dated July.
Yeah, I can't remember why we sent this letter. I think because it is deed restricted and we wanted to stress the fact that this is an issue.
How many short-term rentals are
Can I
registered
see
now?
the letter? Because it's been,
Something like 630 or,
I was gonna look at,
But I think that, but this is definitely a work in progress, the short-term rental. And I thought that in the fall, September, October, we would have Karen come back to us and give us an in detail assessment of where they are, what's going on, what the
What's
problems
working,
are.
what's not
And that's when we can
I've
bring
got
up all these things.
788.
And find, bring up all these issues about this and that. To me, the short-term rental regulation is a work in progress. Right now, we're still implementing the beginning, but then I think it's not when, not if, but when we make further changes to that regulation, and it might need whatever, that'll come. So anyway, we'll have on the agenda, we'll have her come back and give us an extensive follow-up in the fall.
the basic question from day one was enforcement. How is it going, how can we enforce it?
Yep.
And the second question is, how do we identify people who are abusing the short-term rental? And how, and because I know a house on my street that is, 3 bedrooms, sleeps 8. It's advertised 3 bedrooms, sleeps 8. And you see 7 cars in the parking lot, and 100 beer cans on the patio, and there's a whole bunch of guys in there. And how do you, if a realtor says, this is a
Wink, wink, and a
3-bedroom,
nod.
sleeps 8, and 16 guys show up, it's up to the realtor to do something about it, but if they don't,
I think
how do you
it's
enforce
pretty
this?
much by complaint.
You don't,
The
Yeah.
health department has to receive a complaint from a neighbor.
But
you don't
even if
wanna
you
have a
do, How do we
situation,
enforce it?
you don't wanna have a situation where by regulation, they're allowed to sleep 8. But if you walk through the house, you count 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed, and you come out of the house, it says, oh, there's 18 beds in there. Right? Now, That's just disingenuous. They should be required to remove the beds so that you can only put as many people in as is allowed. Otherwise, it's a wink and a nod, right? It's a, hey, you're only allowed to have 8.
Right, yeah.
Wink, wink. And if you want to bring your
Well,
fraternity friends through, who's going to stop you?
Or
Because
if you want to bring your family, if you own the property and you rent it for a month, and then you want to bring your family in August and bring all 20 members of your family in, you can do that, because you're not renting it to them.
Right.
I can have, in my house, I could sleep 20. It's 5 bedrooms, you know, but there's plenty of
couches and everything else.
couches and there's pull-out things and, you know,
Right.
that.
I mean, we knew this wasn't going to be easy, and I think this is a conversation we're going to have to continue to have. We are collecting data, we are following up on problem properties, but it's not something that's going to get fixed overnight. It's
I
just
agree.
because we're going
I
to, we
agree.
see this. I wouldn't say it's, you know, rampant, but we definitely have a bunch of these properties that are, I think, stretching the limit. And we definitely will talk to them about the description of the property and make sure they're clear. They did change, you know, they did change their listing, but they didn't change the description in the body of the,
Is it, under that list, under our form, we're asking the registrants to check certain things and to sign.
it's an affidavit.
Do we have something in that affidavit saying that they agree to not rent to clients for more than the number of people allowed on
I
this
don't
document?
I think it says that per se, no.
It says they're only allowed so many occupants. and they
I know,
agree
but
with
do we have something that we can hold them legally accountable for when they sign that says?
Well, I think that the affidavits, they're agreeing that all the information in the form is accurate.
And they're signing.
Right.
Yeah, I think they say.
But not just that the information is accurate, is that I will not knowingly, I will not sign a contract with renters
Well,
that,
that could be something we talk about to add, but.
right, that,
Sean,
I mean, this was put together and by committee, so.
people aren't gonna call pretty picky rentals and say, we're really interested in your house, 4 bedrooms, sleeps 10. We're thinking of bringing 18 people, is it okay? They're not gonna say that. You know, they'll say, yeah, sure, we'll bring 10 people, and they'll show up with 18. The renter isn't likely gonna enter an agreement with
The owner.
somebody. The owner agrees, saying, oh, yeah, sure, you can bring 20 if you want.
why not?
Why would they say that?
Why
They're
not
they're
build it in?
They'd have to chart,
It can
they'd be
in the
losing
rental
money.
agreement
That's
with
what I'm
the
saying.
realtor.
Does more damage to the house.
Yeah,
You know,
there's a
people
copy of
don't
the
want,
regulation, yeah.
if they're,
Right.
Between the
I think, yeah.
realtor.
Okay, I think that there are lots of questions, and it's a work in progress, but I think what we'll do is we'll get Karen to come here, major agenda item, September, October, and present where they are, and that's the time when we make our list and address all the things to her. And it's a work in progress, but it's a tough one. I'm sure this woman has experience, I think, in Easton, where she did it before, so she may know a lot more about it than how it works in other towns, and,
Okay.
and I think that's where we can do. I think there is posted in the rental a copy of the short-term rental agreement, which would have occupancy and so forth, but whether they,
and we do have the option of going in and inspecting, and if we find a house that's supposed to have 8 maximum occupancy has 15, we could call the owner in for a hearing, and we could pull their certificate and tell them they can't rent it anymore this year, and return all the deposits to the people because they're in violation of their agreement. And that
You said that.
certificate that we give them that allows them to rent can be withdrawn.
Right.
yeah, I think that starting out, there wasn't a major inspection process, but I think down the road, more inspection of maybe every rental, depending on manpower, it's a big job, but there could be things that could be done to make it much stricter.
And if we get a complaint,
complaint.
That would be a time when we could send an inspector over.
Right,
And if
and
the
so-
inspector walks in and sees 18 people sleeping on the floor in a house that's supposed to sleep 8, then they have to have a hearing, and we could pull their certificate.
And one thing that might come out of it is what we can do to notify the public, encourage complaints, and set up a system, and so people know what they can complain and how it works, just public education. Okay, so I think, but we'll have a major follow-up, and I think, and people can save their questions, because we can really get at it.
Judy, will you be following up with the building inspector?
I will review the file and go over it and see where we're at with it, especially the pool house. I'm looking at their,
Can you update us after you?
I mean, this,
Judy for that other person so she can see it.
yeah, I don't even see that the pool house,
This
oh,
goes to
it's the
Judy.
barn, okay,
Goes
yeah,
to Judy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so I'd say old business, we had our community health forum. My idea was to have a community services forum that sort of keyed in with that sometime in the fall. We'll set that up. Correspondence, there's been complaints about odors at the dump. It's an old problem. We'll have to put that on the agenda and discuss that, maybe even get Mr. Fraley back again. But, any other old business, new business, correspondence? Okay, then we have the minutes of June 17th. Any addendums or changes or,
I'll make a motion, we approve the draft minutes from June 17th, 2024.
Second,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, so those minutes are approved. And I think, is there anything else? Otherwise, we can adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
And then we can take a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.